Hello and welcome to this pattern recognition video. Today I have 10 puzzles for you featuring fork patterns. And if you're new to pattern recognition, in chess basically, you want to solve a set of puzzles, whether it's 5 or 10, or 100 or more. And you don't just solve them once, you solve them multiple times, up to 7 times. And you try to solve them faster each time you go through those puzzles. And hopefully after up to 7 times, the patterns and tactics will be more cemented into your long-term memory and you'll be able to use them in your own games, hopefully. So today I've bumped the rating up a little bit higher from, up to 2,000 to 2,500 because I did have some requests for more difficult puzzles. Maybe some of them were too easy. Now, in these puzzles today, they're all going to be forks, or have forks involved in them. So that way, if you're lower rated than 2,000, you can still try these and you'll know the tactic going into it, so that gives you a big advantage. Of course, in a normal game, you won't know what the tactic is or if there's even a tactic available. So here, it looks like the white rook just moved, creating a battery of 2 rooks here. And now with black to move, what would you do in this position? I have to admit that this looks like a pattern that I haven't seen before, but it looks like it's something pretty useful because often you can have a rook endgame or 2 rooks like this where there's a 3 versus 2 pawn majority. So what do you think here? What would you do in this position? Generally, when you're trying to figure that out, you want to look at the material. You want to look at what your opponent just did. They moved this rook. What is their threat? Well, maybe they could move this rook here and try and trade off, this rook. If you take, then they would take, of course, and it would be a back rank mate. So you want to avoid that. But after that, after counting the material and looking at what your opponent's ideas are, you want to look at checks, captures, and threats. Checks first is their most forcing, and I think that would help you in this position because if you notice, the rook is preventing the king from retreating here, and the king can only go where? To this dark square at the moment, so I'm thinking that we maybe push this pawn, and white has to be careful because once we push this pawn with check, the king can only go here or move forward. Now, if we check and the king goes here, well, then we can push this pawn with check and we'll get the fork that we're looking for. We'll be able to fork the king and then take the rook. But I'm wondering, what do you do if you check the king and he moves forward here? Once you do that, if you try to check him with the rook, once again, he could move back here. But this time, if you fork him, he could retreat and take your rook. And so that doesn't look as good. So I'm thinking if we check and he moves forward, we maybe have to check him from the side. He can't block with this rook. So, what does he do next? Or what is our best move? So if we check, he moves here. If we check from the side, he can't go back here as we saw, or we can fork his rook and the king. So he would have to move here. And remember, whenever you check the king, he has 3 options: capture the attacker, block the attacker, or run. Now, I should say 3 or less options because, of course, you can't always do or don't always have the option of all 3 of those. You might only be able to do 1. But if you can't do any of those, capture, block, or run, then it's a checkmate. So check with the pawn. The king comes forward. We check with the rook. and the king is forced to move here. And then what? Do we check again? And then I don't see how. Okay, I'm just going to play this out. That way the video doesn't go on too long. So, of course, he steps forward. So now I'm thinking we have to bring this rook down and check again. So we'll do that. Now, what I'm going to have to look up bring up the analysis here. I'm wondering why the king didn't go here, and hopefully you saw it better than I have. So I'm going to go there. Now we just fork. So if I pull up the analysis, and we'll take a look at this. So he went here, which is an obvious blunder. Well, not so obvious. If he, instead of going here, I want to see what he did, or what would happen. Excuse me. What would happen if he would go here instead? So now what? They're saying F6 or F5 works, or even rook to B8. Oh, because you can move all the way over here and threaten to attack. Try to checkmate on the back rank, perhaps. But let's look at the best move, which was F6, attacking. They recommend rook to C5, and now, oh wow, now we have this move, rook to F7, king to D8, because now if we check, he can block with his rook. We do that anyway. He blocks with the rook. And now what? Oh, we grab the rook with rook to F8. Wow, okay, so that's pretty crazy. That was a lot to see. Hopefully you saw that. If you did, that's good for you. All right, to keep this moving along, I'm going to move on to puzzle number 2. And that last puzzle was rated 2147. So let's look at the next one. Okay, a knight has just what? Retreated back. Doing what? All right, what is that? What is that knight doing? All right, to figure out how to begin here, we want to look at the opponent's last move. So the knight dropped back to here. What is the threat with that? It was trying to save the knight, I guess. The knight was under attack. So the knight drops back. If we look at the material, we have 6 pawns. Our opponent has 4. So we're ahead by 2 pawns, but we're down a rook. So we need to do something in a hurry here. Now, if we look at checks first, we have the rook lined up, and we can have a discovered attack if we move this bishop out of the way. But where would be best to move that? All right. And if we're looking for, a fork opportunity, we have to figure out how to do that as well. So this looks like it could be another interesting puzzle that's a little more difficult. All right, I'm still thinking that we have to move this bishop and use the power of our discovered attack. But he could also, remember, if we check the king, he can't capture the rook, but he could block, or he could run. If he blocks, well, then we can just take his rook because it'll be pinned. So maybe he runs, but where? All right. Well, if we go here, that's pretty forcing that move. We already saw that he can't block with the bishop, or we'll just grab his rook here. So the king would probably have to move here. And then, oh, we can still take, no, we can't still take the rook. Well, I don't know, maybe we attack his bishop. Or can we take his rook, he takes back, then we move over here, threatening a mate. That might be a possibility. All right, yeah, these are a little bit tougher today. Even though we know there's a fork, so I hope you're doing, better than I'm doing on these. All right, so I'm thinking we go here. The king would have to go here. And then if we take this and he takes back, can we go right here? Oh, okay, it still works because even if the king moves here, we can still, or he can't move there because of the bishop. All right, that's what I'm going to try. So let's see. Go there. We take that. Then we move here. Oh, and then this is the fork because the knight blocks. And we can take the bishop, and he can't take our bishop because we're pinning his knight. Wow. Okay, that was rated 2470. So I hope you're able to find all that. On to puzzle number 3. Knight has just moved forward here with some threats. There's a threat of a fork. Well, not really a fork that way because the king has already moved. So I guess there's a threat of just taking with the queen, this pawn with check, forcing a queen trade. Let's see here. Sorry about that. I had something pop up on my computer. All right, I don't know if it showed up for you all or not. Okay, the knight has moved forward. What can we do here? Let's look at the material. We have 6 pawns. Our opponent has the same number. We have 3 minor pieces, 2 rooks and a queen. So it looks like material's even. Our king, well, both kings are kind of out in the middle. So we're looking for checks, captures, and threats in that order. Now we know there's going to be a fork involved, but like that last puzzle, maybe we have to set the fork up. All right. Checks. Do we even have any checks? No, I don't see any way to check the opponent's king up here. So captures, do they have any unprotected pieces or pawns? No, the queen's protecting that, so the bishop can't take it. Oh, we could, here's a fork possibility. We attack the queen, forking the queen and the rook at the same time. So that's probably the way to go. Something like that. Now, what we have to look at, though, remember, unless you have a very forcing move like the check against the king and they have to deal with that by capturing the checking piece, blocking, or running, if you have something else, another move like this bishop move, we have to watch out because our opponent is able to check us. So the queen could move out of the way with check, and it looks like we could just move here and have a discovered attack on the queen. It would have to move again, and then we could take the rook. So I'm thinking that works. All right, so that's what they wanted. Now, Do we just take the rook now? Or do we just grab an extra pawn and then grab the rook? We might as well take the pawn as well. Okay, now we're just going to trade queens because we still have plenty of time to take this rook as long as there are no surprising checks against us. And if we're going to be ahead in material, we might as well trade down more pieces. So if we go here, oh, there's a fork like that. But then it doesn't matter. We can still take, if they take our rook, then we take the knight. Yeah, so now if they take our rook, well, then we grab the knight as well, and we'll be up, what, a entire knight, and then 5 pawns versus 5. Okay, that was rated 2047. On to puzzle number 4. What do we have here? I would say if you're trying to get a system down to help you avoid blunders and to figure out what move to play, you definitely want to take a look. One of the first things you want to do is take a look at what your opponent just did, what their last move did, what it's trying to accomplish. Well, here it's lining up on our king and queen. If this knight moves out of the way, where would that knight move? Not sure where the best location would be. But if our knight moves, the queen can capture our queen, trading off the queens. So that's something to be aware of. Now you want to count up the material to see if you're ahead or behind, and that'll help you make a decision on whether to trade down material or whether you can't afford to trade material. So we have 6 pawns. Our opponent has the same number. And we both have 3 minor pieces, 2 rooks and a queen. Our opponent has the bishop pair, so that could be a slight advantage there. And our pawn structure is a little weaker than our opponent. We have 1, 2, and then all of these pawns. So we have 3 islands of pawns. And if you're not familiar with that, basically a pawn island is 1 or more pawns grouped together with no pawn in between. So this pawn is by itself, this one's by itself, and then these 4 are another island of pawns. And here our opponent just has 2 pawn islands on the king side and the queen side. And when the pawns are side by side, they're a little easier to protect one another by, if one pawn wants to move forward, the other one beside it can protect it. But back to the fork puzzle here. Let's figure out where we can go to get a good fork against our opponent. Okay. Well, we're looking for checks, captures, and threats. So you want to ask yourself, what did your opponent's last move accomplish? What does the material situation look like? What checks, captures, and threats do we have? Well, we could check here, and that could be blocked by the pawn or the queen. So that's a possibility. Now, if the pawn blocks, let's say we check with the queen, the pawn blocks, can we take with the knight? No, because it'll be pinned to our king. So any other checks? I don't see any. All right. So maybe we can do something crazy like bring our rook up here to attack. And then we can also threaten to swing over here And then once we move this knight, our rook would pin the queen to the king. But also, if we go here, the bishop could just retreat and block all of that. So then what do we do? Wow, okay, this one is a little tricky. Do we have any simple forks? Like, here's something that might be possible. No, if we go here, forking the bishop and this pawn, we could have a capture of our knight with check. So maybe we need something different here. I don't know. This is another tricky one. Okay, if we check this way, can we do anything? Check. Remember, when the king is being checked, what are the options? Well, capture, block, or run. So the queen cannot be captured if we move it there. He could block with this pawn. Then what do we do? Well, if we take this pawn, we're threatening the rook, but he could capture our knight with check. Then we have to deal with that. So maybe if we don't have any good checks, we have to look at captures. Nothing we can capture immediately, so what about threats? Maybe we go here, attacking the queen, threatening to capture it, and depending where that queen goes, we could have a threat of a fork that way. So attack the queen. Should the queen move here? No, then we can just fork. So maybe this is the move. If we go here, the queen has to guard that and figure out where to go and not be attacked. If the queen goes there, well, then we have another crazy knight move. So I think that's the way to go. Attack the queen. All right, now that it's gone there, well, we have this discovered attack. So we could move out of the way. Maybe here. Attacking the queen. There'll be a discovered attack on the king. And then the queen will be in trouble. So we'll go there. And now we have this fork. And then we'll be able to grab the queen. Wow, okay, so that was rated 2068. And I hope you're doing well on these. They're a little trickier. They seem like they're a little bit tougher. So I hope the difficulty rating is enough for the people that are requesting harder puzzles. All right, on to puzzle number 5. A knight was under attack by this pawn. It jumps forward. What now? Okay. Well, our queen is under attack as well, so we have to do something about that. So, if we follow our system, we look at the move that was just made, this knight. What does that accomplish? Well, it brings the knight forward. It gets it to safety because it was under attack. It attacks our queen, and we have to deal with that. If we look at the material, we have 8 pawns. Our opponent has, 6? 2 less than us. but they do have an extra knight. So we're down by the equivalent of a pawn. Now we look at checks, captures, and threats. So if we look at the check first, that is a great possibility there. We attack the king. The king goes where? The only place possible. Now what? Well, maybe we can go here with our knight, forking the queen and threatening a mate. So this is a good example of you don't always have to fork two pieces. You can fork a piece and a square, or two squares, I guess. And so the square that is under attack with our knight is threatening a mate. So let's go ahead and play this. We go here, then we go here. Oh, okay, and that is not what they want. So let me see what I missed. I thought if we go here, we're threatening the mate and we're attacking the queen. How do they cover that? Oh, they could move their rook here, attacking our queen and covering that square at the same time. But I don't know, if we do that, if they do that, we can just take their queen. If they take ours, then we can grab a knight out of the deal as well. So what is a better move here? Oh, wow. Okay. And this is a great example of why you should calculate a little bit further and make sure you double check things. So I could go here with the queen, threatening a mate. The king, well, either the pawn would have to push forward to block the threat. If the king moved back where it was, I guess I could start attacking. So queen threatens mate. Pawn blocks and attacks my knight. But then the knight can jump forward, forking the king and queen. So, or they do that. At least the queen takes the knight with it, and that's another option, but we're winning. Okay, so I hope you found that one and did better than I did. Let's find out on puzzle 6 what we have. So puzzle number 6, the knight has just jumped forward. What is our opponent trying to accomplish here? Well, there is a threat of capturing, the unprotected bishop here. So that's something to be aware of. All right, material. We have 5 pawns. Our opponent has 1 more than us. We have 4 minor pieces. So does our opponent. 2 rooks and a queen. So we're just down a pawn. What do we do? Well, if we look at checks first, we do have a capture here with the bishop. So that's a possibility. But what happens after that? And we do have 1, 2, 3 attackers here, and our opponent only has 2 defenders of that square. So maybe there's a way to take advantage of that. And we probably have to attack with the bishop first because it's... Oh, wait, I take that back. They have 3 defenders. I have to make sure I look at everything. They have a knight as well. So, this is another reason that it's good to solve puzzles regularly to help improve your board vision. So you get in the habit of looking at all the pieces and what they're doing. So the knight is also covering that as well as attacking the bishop. So what can we do? Well, maybe we add another attacker to that square and threaten a checkmate at the same time. So that might be a possibility. Then we would have, what, 4 attackers of that square. And I don't know, I think that might do some damage to our opponent. We have to make sure they don't have any surprise checks against us. They could move a bishop here, attacking our king, but our king can move over. So that doesn't really do much. All right. Is that the move to make? So get the queen involved. And then if our knight moves, we might have this possibility of taking as well. So threaten a check here with the queen and knight. So once we make that move, what next? They have to stop that. And the only way looks to be, what, to push this pawn? Well, now we can start attacking the king. So do we move that first? So check. If the king just moves here, oh, then we can threaten to go here with the queen and then mate. So threaten the mate. Pawn pushes forward, attacking our knight. Oh, wait, we can't do that because then they could take... Oh, no, they wouldn't be able to take our knight because that pawn would be pinned. But if we go here and they attack our knight, I still think then we should go there. If they capture, well, then we have them on the run. So I think that's the way to go. So we go there. We attack. Oh, they don't like that. All right. What is better? Huh. Oh, and we can't go here anyway with the queen because the knights will grab the queen. So, okay, they don't want that move. Do we attack the queen? So maybe that's the way to go. We go here attacking the queen. If that queen moves, then what? We have a discovered attack. So we go there. Well, now we can just grab their queen. So, unless we have something better, we just take that. Now we're forced to take there. And once the dust settles, I mean, they could take that, but we still have an extra queen out of it. For what? They're 2 minor pieces. And we have this threat as well. Going here, forking, king and knight also. All right, on to puzzle number 7. Rook did what? Just captured here. And what do we have? All right, so first we want to look at what did this move accomplish? I think it just captured a piece. Or was that a pawn? Probably a piece because what do we have? I don't know. It captured something. And now, material. We have 5 pawns. Our opponent has 5. We both have 2 rooks and a minor piece. They have the bishop. Now the bishop is a little bit stronger when there are pawns on both sides of the board, because the bishop can zip back and forth across the board faster. Although this knight is on a good outpost here that's only able to be attacked by pieces because it's protected by this pawn and there's no pawns around it to attack. So what do we do here? All right, if we're looking for a fork, and we want to look at checks first. I mean, if we go here, the rook can just take. So that doesn't look so good. Does that do anything if we take there, they take, oh, and then we can go here, forking the king. So maybe that works. Although, we have to look at that. Remember, they don't have to cooperate and do what we think they'll do. So if we take, what if they decide to take? Then I guess we could take them, they take our rook, our pawn takes, and if they try to attack our pawn, we could get behind it, something like that. Start trying to push it forward. So I think that's the way to go. And they just give us the easy way out. All right. So there we go. Now we're just ahead material. On to puzzle number 8. Knight has just captured here. So captured a pawn. It's protected by the other knight. Material, we have 5 pawns. Our opponent has, what, 6? They have 1 more. We each have a queen, 4 minor pieces. Am I counting that right? No. We have 4 minor pieces. Our opponent has 3, but they have the extra rook. So, and this position looks to be kind of messy. Another good reason to work on your pattern recognition and solve puzzles, because sometimes you have these crazy positions with just a mess of pieces everywhere. All right. Well, what can we do? Do we just move here, attacking the queen and the rook at the same time? Maybe we just do that. Is it that simple? We have to make sure our opponent doesn't have, some kind of tricky counterattack. If they try to check us, well, then we can just capture. But then that could let the queen attack us. All right. I think that's the way to go. Just go right there. All right, so they decided to attack that way. So what now? Do we ignore that and take the queen? I think so. All right. Well, what now? Interesting that they're continuing. Checks, we have to watch out. Here's a check. If we take this knight, they could move this knight with a discovered attack. So if we take, if they go here, looks like we can just step over. All right, that's what they want. We have that extra queen. All right, on to puzzle number 9. What do we have here? A knight has just moved forward, developing, backing up the other knight. Material, we have 7 pawns. Our opponent has 7 as well. We both have, 4 minor pieces, 2 rooks, and a queen. All right, now we're looking for checks, captures, and threats. Do we have any good checks? Well, we could take this knight, delivering a check. The other knight would probably recapture, attacking our knight. Any other checks? I don't see anything. So, any captures? Do they have anything unprotected? I don't see anything. And we're looking for a fork anyway. So, what could we do as far as a fork? If we take here, the queen can't capture, the pawn or the knight could capture, probably the knight. And then, I don't know, maybe we could go here forking the queen and the bishop. So that's a possibility. So, bishop takes, or do we leave the bishop there? I mean, what if we just attack immediately? If we go there immediately attacking the queen, there is a possibility of it moving with check, but then we can just block attacking the queen. Oh, if he does that, yeah, then next we can pick off the bishop. So maybe we do that immediately. So check, or not check, but attack on the queen. If the queen, retreats, we just grab their bishop. So what should they do? If we go there, they're probably going to attack us with a check. And I guess we could attack the queen again. And then what? The queen would have to retreat to where? Back along the diagonal. And then how do we continue? We grab the bishop. All right, so attack. Oh, they can block with their... Let me double check this. They can block with their bishop if we attack. But then if they do that, we can attack with our pawn, driving the bishop back. Oh, and it would be captured either way. So we go there. If the bishop would have blocked, we attack with the pawn, and then we capture it. So now we just take all... Okay, I was thinking this knight could capture, but it can't because it's pinned. Okay, on to puzzle number 10, the final puzzle. Queen did what? Did it just capture there, or did it just centralize and attack our queen and also protect this rook that was attacked by our queen? Material. 5 pawns for us, 1 extra pawn for our opponent. So they're up a pawn. We have 2 rooks, a queen, and a knight. They have 2 rooks, a queen, and a bishop. And as I said, the bishop is better than the knight when there's pawns on both sides of the board because it can move faster across the board. All right, we're looking for a fork. And we have a knight, which is usually a good piece to use for a fork. But, I mean, right now we're forking 2 pieces, but we can't take the rook. What if we take the queen? Now I should look for checks, captures, and threats. Get in the habit of doing that. I don't see any checks. No way to check the king. Oh, although captures, anything unprotected, no. I mean, we could capture this pawn, but then our queen could be... What if we do this? What if we... Okay, pause the video at any time if you need to think longer, and you might want to do it now, unless you've already found the answer. In that case, what if we go here? Does that do anything? If they capture, a rook could check. Oh, but then they can drop their rook back. And then if we take, their bishop would take. So here, then so maybe that is a possibility. Okay, so take, we go here. I don't know if that does it or not. So I don't know. That looks to be maybe the best way to go. Can this knight do anything that I'm not seeing? So take, he's forced to take to keep material even. So take, check. Rook comes back to block. If we take that, we can capture the pawn. Oh, then we have to watch out for an attack on us. All right. So take. What if we go there first? Well, then he could just take our queen. You know, we take, he'd take our rook. I mean, or we go there, he takes, we take first, putting him in check, and he has to deal with that. He recaptures, we recapture. But then the problem is if he checks us on the back rank and we go to block, and his bishop puts more pressure on that threatening mate, that doesn't look good for us. So do we capture this pawn first? You know, and then we're threatening the bishop. Something like that. All right, I'm going to just play it out. That way the video can be wrapped up here. No, they don't want that. Okay, what about, they do want us to take there. Oh, now we go there. And then we pick that off. Wow, okay. All right, I hope you found that one in the end there. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, okay, yeah, once we do that, now there's this back rank threat as well, and we're just ahead material. All right, you know, feel free to leave comments, like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and have a super chess day.